finished number one. And we've got
Yeah.
a former captain of the Buckeyes and the first team All Big Ten linebacker from 2010, believe ready to join us now, and BRIAN ROLLE. Let's see if we can hear him. Oh, there he is. Hey, Brian, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys well.
Oh, awesome, man. We really appreciate you coming on with us. I got to be honest with you, you're one of my favorite players of all time, man, and we are really pumped up to see you today. Just to kick things off, we want to talk a little bit about, it's almost here, man. College football is right around the corner. Just talk to us a little bit about what this time was like for you, right before the season kicked off in camp, trying to get things ready. What are your memories of, coming up to right before the season starts, trying to get things ready to go?
Well, I appreciate you guys having me, man. It's the time of the year I tell people where the grass, you can smell it in the grass. The air just feels different.
Yes.
And this year, I've been out of college for 12 years, but out of football for 7. And I still get the same feeling, the butterflies in my stomach, the anxiousness, the nervousness. And then spend time like now getting ready for the season. It's more about the mental right now, honestly. I think physically the guys are ready to go. I think it's a matter of the next couple of weeks of gelling as a team, getting the young guys in, getting the old guys with the young guys. That's the thing that we focus on with Tressel. Is mentally you got to be ready to go because physically you work all summer, you worked all spring, and you get to camp. It's just the mental grind.
Brian, what was your recruiting process like coming out of Amalaki in Florida? I was looking through some of the alumni that have come through the program, and it's an impressive list from Edgerrin James to J.C. Jackson, you name it. But what was that process like, and what did Coach Tressel do to encourage you to come to Columbus to play football?
Yeah, I'm gonna correct the verbiage there. It's Immokalee.
That's right. Immokalee. Hey, what's funny is I literally looked up the pronunciation beforehand, and brain to mouth did not work out well. So there, I apologize about that.
It's a different name, man. I tell people when you see it, if you can say it, you're good. But the recruiting process for me, I tell people, I always ask Coach Fickle, how did they find me? In one of the smaller schools in Florida. Obviously, we had Edgerrin James before me and Javaris James. But Tim Beckman was my recruiting coordinator, the DB coach at Ohio State. And I fell in love with him, honestly. And I had a chance to meet Luke Fickle and Coach Tressel. And I always tell people what stuck out to me was Jim Tressel never really talked football. It was more about me becoming a great man and being a better person once I leave the program. He obviously wouldn't have, came to my hometown and sat with my parents and recruited me if I couldn't play football. But he was, he hit so much on the personal side of me being a better person. And that's what drew me to Ohio State than some of the other bigger schools.
Yeah, we've had talked to a couple of your old teammates on here, and Donnie Nicky and some other guys, and everybody says the same thing, and it's been my experience too. I mean, Coach Tressel is not only one of the greatest coaches of all time, in my opinion, but he's also one of the best men that I've ever met. And we've told some stories on here about that guy, and to me, he just meeting him in person, he touched all the bases. Because he just was a genuine good guy. He always remembered my name. And I was like, how does this guy who meets hundreds of people every day know who the hell I am and remember my name? It just kind of really always stuck out to me. Just talk to us a little bit about what it was like playing for him and what about his coaching style led to such success in the program.
Well, I'll tell people, it's rare in your lifetime you meet people that change your life. And most people say that they met someone who changed something about their life, but I mean someone who truly transformed who you are as an individual. And Jim Tressel's that guy. I take myself coming from a poor city in South Florida where the odds of being great and getting out weren't great. But he took the opportunity to come down from Ohio to recruit me. And then you see him in action around other players. He's like that father figure away from being home. And he took to heart that every young man there was like his own child. And he held us all accountable for our actions, but also coached us and loved us through, the mistakes that we made as young men and as athletes as well. And I tell you, like I said, he's one of the people in my life I could truly say to help transform me to who I am today. Every time I see him, it's like being away from home and not seeing your dad for a long time. You see him again, and you get excited like a little kid, and that's what it is when I see Coach Tressel.
Awesome.
Because he is. I mean, when I speak of great coaches, I would say Jim Tressel and my high school coach Luke Fickell would be the top 3 guys I've had the opportunity to play under.
Well, I mean, you kind of led me into my next question, where, like, what was that best piece of advice? You've talked about Coach Tressel and Coach Fickell and Coach Beckman. I mean, of any of the people, even from pros down to high school, what's the best piece of advice that you received that helped you not only as a football player, but as a man, that you could kind of pass on to as well?
So I remember my high school coach. I remember being hesitant about leaving home. I grew up in Immokalee, from Immokalee, and never really left the state of Florida other than visiting family, actually up in Cleveland. I just remember him saying that, you got to take chances in life. And sometimes you get many of them, sometimes you only get one. And fortunate enough, I took the opportunity, took the chance that my coach told me to take. And it worked out. And I say that, I live my life by that today. It's just betting on yourself and take a chance. And I can thank John Weber, my high school coach, for that advice.
Nice. And, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I want to go back to it because I've really been impressed with the transition, that went from Coach Tressel, and obviously there was that 1 year in between there, and then it went to Urban Meyer and then was handed over to Ryan Day. I've been pretty impressed with Coach Day since he took over. I mean, 34-4, obviously getting it done in the win column, but I like what he's done off the field as well. I like how he's proven that he cares about his kids and he cares about the team, not just, as football players, but also, in their life. In fact, the story with Harry Miller and, being behind him as he decided to retire because of, issues that he was having off the field. And to me, that hit home because this is a guy that doesn't just do it for the cameras. He really cares. I just want to get your thoughts on what do you feel like Ryan Day's done so far since taking over at Ohio State, and what are your feelings about him as their coach right now?
Yeah, I would say I am agreeing with you on, he gives me that younger Coach Tressel vibe where, no dig at Urban Meyer. He did a great job as a great coach in his own right, but I think Urban Meyer brings that homey. Ryan Day brings that homey feel back to Ohio State to where, players of my, decade, I would say, feel more welcome back. And the players of today, it feels like a family. I don't feel like when you go to the Woody Hayes Center, it feels like it's a businessman run there. It feels like it's a family of guys doing what they love to do and getting a job done. And I'll tell you what, I had a chance to meet with Coach Day a few times, and we golfed together a little bit. And you can genuinely get that feel of a guy who enjoys what he does, who puts family first, who puts, team first. And you can see it through the guys. You can see the attitude of our team, how it's just a little bit different. I think Urban Meyer did a great job of getting the program back to where it needed to be. And I think that Ryan Day has done an immaculate job of bringing that home feel, that team feel, that family feel back to Ohio State. And there's another coach I could say that would have done the same, maybe other than maybe a Luke Fickell.
Yeah.
When you played in Canada, what was the biggest struggle you had from just transitioning to the American game to the Canadian game? Because there's so many little unique things about the game that are just like different than watching the NFL or college football. What was the hardest transition you had in that?
I tell people, I wasn't a defensive back in the CFL, so for me that wasn't tough. The hardest part is like our special teams here. You punt the ball, you go down, you make a tackle, or the guy called the fair catch, and all is done. Whereas in Canada, you got to give the guy 5 yards instead of, I think it's 1 or 2 now, the halo roll. So that was one big thing. I think I probably got 2 penalties on that just because you're not used to it.
Yeah.
And then also the fumble of the ball. If they fumble the ball and you just bat it out of bounds, then it's the defense's ball.
Yeah.
Little things like that made it tougher to transition. Obviously, the bigger field, the wider field, wasn't that big of a deal. But I tell people, when you come from the U.S. and you play in Canada, man, you got to respect their game because it's unique to Canada. But it was fun. It was an awesome. I tell people it's probably some of the most fun football I had since like high school, where you just genuinely have fun playing the game.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, Nate, go ahead.
No, go ahead, buddy.
Just the receivers being in motion, that coming up to the line that fast at the snap, it's just got to be tough too as well. Plus, I had to explain my son the rouge and what a rouge is in Canadian football too as well, because he was like sitting there scratching his head while we were watching one game on ESPN one night what that was. So, yeah.
Yeah, the game, man. Our defensive backs struggle a lot from the U.S. because the kids from Canada, they played in the same kind of football in high school and university there, whereas our guys here used to be stationary. No one can move towards the line of scrimmage before the ball is snapped. And then, day one of football camp, you got to learn what a waggle is and how to defend against it. So you typically see our defensive back struggle early on, but I think athletic-wise, coming from the U.S., playing at some big schools, and you go to Canada, I think athleticism-wise, we're probably a notch better. It's just that they're more skilled at what they do because they're, more used to playing that style of football.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And, as we get ready for the season and the Big Ten's kicking it off, in week one with Notre Dame coming into the shoe to play Ohio State, I mean, that is going to be a huge game. Obviously, tickets going for around $4,000 just to get in the door, man. It's a little bit crazy. In fact, I got to be honest, I sold mine after I saw the prices going. As much as I wanted to go, I was like, I'm going to go to a different game and feed my daughter for a few weeks. So I sold those tickets, but I'm going to be watching, man. And I think about how crazy that game and that atmosphere is going to be. What's your biggest memory? What was your favorite memory of playing at the shoe and playing for the Buckeyes? What really sticks out to you as the biggest moment that you enjoyed when you had your amazing career going on?
Well, I always go back to the first game we played at Ohio State. I want to say it was Youngstown State, my freshman year. And I remember coming to 1 versus 2 in 2006, Ohio State, Michigan. Yeah. And, being a fan at that point or a recruit, I'm standing in the stands and like, wow, this is what football is. But then coming out of that tunnel, being a part of the team just a year later, man, I literally came to tears because you can watch it from the stands for 40 years, but until you run out of that tunnel with the scarlet and gray on and you're representing the team and you're out there battling, man, it's an awesome feeling. Yeah. And it's the best 4 years I've had in my life outside of being my wife and my kids. And I think about it all the time. If I could just, go back and replay 4 years over and over and over again, it'll be those 4 years at Ohio State because, it's a time that you can't even put it into words as I can now because you just have to live it to understand exactly, what it does to you.
Yeah. What was the hardest place to play at for you?
Oh man. I would give it to Penn State or Wisconsin. Penn State, man, is, oh boy, it's that again, it's one of those things where you can't even put it into words because it's so loud. I remember if you could think of taking a beehive and putting it in a bucket and letting the bees go crazy, that's what it feels like in your helmet, where it's just rattling and vibrating. Wisconsin is nuts just because it's a small stadium, but you wouldn't know that it's only, 75,000 people there. They know how to bring the kids out. They know how to bring the fans out and have a good time. And that jump around, man, is everything that you imagine it is when you watch it on TV.
Oh yeah, dude. That place is pretty rocking. I've been over there a couple of times, and it was pretty crazy watching the game there. And I'm pretty excited. College football is our favorite time of the year, and it's coming up. It's coming up quicker than you can imagine. And I feel like this, for some reason, this just feels like one of those years where the Buckeyes have got a chance, man. I feel like they've got a good shot at winning it all. Obviously you still follow the Buckeyes. What do you think about their chances this year, and can they get it done and go all the way?
I think so. And, bringing over Jim Knowles with the defense, I tell people I follow our defense more than offense, looking at the game just because that's what I played. And I'm excited about that defense, man. I know it's kind of a, 3-3-5, 4-2-5, what have you. And I just think if we buy into it, I think defense is a lot about buy-in when you get to this level of football because you all can play. All the guys can play. We have the athletes to do it. But I just think if they take to heart that Coach Knowles is here to make us a better team, that side of the ball, man, that will be our biggest question if there's any, is how well can have our guys adapted to that defense, and do we believe that we can be great? Because at the end of the day, if you believe you can be great at Ohio State, then we'll be hoisting the trophy at the end of the year as national champions.
Who do you see on that defense right now this year that could step up, that's really impressed you, that could take it to that next level?
I like Hicks, man. 14, man. I just think when you watch a player, man, that just he reminded me of, remember Bob Sanders, who played for the Indianapolis Colts, and I was a kid watching him play. And I mean, he's obviously a little bigger than Bob Sanders was out of Iowa. But man, you talk about a guy that's a game changer, who you can make, your middle linebacker or defensive end probably, and the guy's gonna make plays. I said Hickman. I think he's going to be an awesome player, man. I know we got some young defensive ends who are going to be really, really good, but I think for Ohio State for many years we had some great secondaries, and over the last couple of years I would say we might have been, maybe a B in that category. But I think on the back end that's where we're going to have to get better, and if they do, then again, like I said, we're going to be national champions at the end of the year.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think when we've had those teams that have won the national championship, we've had those shutdown corners, we've had those playmaking safeties that have got it done, and I think that's crucial for this season. But I also think, like you mentioned, and piggybacking off your comment, those ends have got to step up. You think about the success in recent history. It was Chase Young, it was the Bosa brothers. We had those guys that were just wreaking havoc on the opposing teams' quarterbacks, and I feel like that we're primed for another year like that. Just talk to us a little bit about how that pass rush makes things easier for the linebackers and the DBs. I mean, you've been out there, you played. If they're getting after the guy, surely that makes things easier for the rest of the crew, right?
Oh, 100%. And I think on the back end, when you got some hogs up front who are going to get after the quarterback, we already know that you got 3.5 seconds for the guy to get the ball out. So if the defensive ends are doing their job, D tackles are doing their job, there's not a whole lot of coverage that's needed. And that's where those guys on the back end shine, because the ball's coming out hot. Then we know how to play from there. I think we've fallen in trouble before when we couldn't get pass rushes in and the quarterback is, 5-6 seconds in the pocket. And, I mean, you could be the best defensive back in the country and you couldn't cover someone that long. But it makes it so much easier when you got guys, like you said, the Bosa brothers and those guys who just made quarterbacks' lives a living heck, around Ohio State for the last few years. So I think this year, if we get the defensive ends going, the back end will definitely be what we're accustomed to seeing, just shut down.
Awesome, man. Hey, Brian, we really appreciate your time today, and best of luck to you with everything going forward. We loved watching you play at your career at Ohio State and the Eagles and in Canada. So definitely enjoy the upcoming season, and hopefully we can have you back on sometime and talk a little bit more.
Thank you, Brian.
Guys. Thanks. You guys have a great day. OH.
All right. Have a good one, man.
See ya.
Man. Thank you so much.